Is your head still hurting before we start?
Yeah, it has hurt all day. I woke up this morning and I'm like, great, my head hurts. My eyes are really sensitive.
Yeah.
And so it was probably from writing these podcast stories the other day.
I'm sorry the podcast has done this to you.
Killing me.
Well, with that then, do you want to get started on this heinous, hateful, villainous podcast of ours?
Yes. I hope you recorded all of that.
I did.
No.
Oh, by the way, this is our podcast. It's Creatures of the Night.
You're Chris.
And you're Wendy.
Yeah. Because I was seriously about to just start telling you a story. And then when you said, let's start this heinous podcast of ours, then I was like, oh, yeah, that's right. We have to fucking intro it. We should share, which you cannot tell. It sounds beautiful. A few podcasts ago, maybe like 4 podcasts ago, I don't know. We did a whole podcast. And at the end, Chris is like, hey, we never introed the podcast. Would you like to do that now? And I was like, oh, fuck.
Wendy's talking about Asbestos Garden. We forgot to intro that podcast.
And it was like, oh, by the way.
Yeah, that was funny. Oh, those silly podcast times of ours. Those old days. The last podcast.
3 weeks ago. 4 weeks ago. Something like that.
We're still learning, guys. Thanks so much for joining us.
51 episodes in.
Yes! 51.
It's a learning process. I gotta tell you, and this is really small. It's not that big of a deal, but the other day it was late and I was in bed up. I had stayed up late to fiercely write this podcast because I am a last minute type person when it comes to your homework assignments. So here I am just like 2 days ago. I'm lying if I say 3. It was just 2 nights ago. I'm sitting up in bed and I'm typing away on the computer. And all of a sudden there was this loud popping sound right next to me.
What?
Yeah. So I have an exercise machine and it's a big hulking beast of a machine and it's got plastic coverings over like the mechanics of the machine. And if you were to step down onto those the plastic parts, it could make like a pop noise or whatever, crack noise, you know, and that's kind of what it sounded like. But obviously, I mean, the lights were on and everything. There was nobody in the room standing up on this machine. And it wasn't the cat either. My dogs sleep with my sons, each get a dog, and then I get the cat. And she was already in bed with me. So I can't even blame it on her because she does like to crawl around on the machine all the time. But it just popped. And my brain, don't think I'm crazy. I did not go straight to, oh my God, it's a ghost on my exercise machine. I was just like, that's weird. Cause I've just never heard it make that noise without me stepping on it before. But I was like, whatever, Wendy, don't get crazy. That's just the machine settling, I guess, even though it had been hours since I had used it. Or I am not a contractor, so maybe this doesn't make any sense, but maybe it had dropped a degree outside and it was slightly cooler and the concrete foundation contracted and that somehow vibrates through the tile and then affects this heavy ass exercise machine.
Hold on. Am I podcasting with my husband? Because that was a whole long way around to disprove some paranormal shit.
It's funny because your husband and I tend to think along the same lines sometimes.
You guys do.
But
I totally get it. Like, we've said this before. We both think that we have some things going on in our homes. We're not so quick to jump on that's a paranormal bandwagon, which is odd because we're both paranormal investigators. We're both like, my dog is cocking her head and looking at the door. She must need to go outside. I open the door. She runs away. What the hell's wrong with this animal? Not, what the fuck is going on downstairs? Is it a demon? I mean, it might be, but you know what I'm saying? Let's go with the logical explanation first. Figure out if there is any logic to it. Like you said, the concrete contracted because it dropped a degree in Arizona and, I don't know. Shit like that can happen. Right. You're in a home.
Yes,
things settle.
Houses settle and creak and the wind could have blown that. Well, no, this totally came from the floor and that machine. So I don't see how that affects the wind. But you know what I mean? If the wind blows heavy enough outside and presses up against the house, sounds can be made, but I know what I heard, and it was pop that sounded like it came from that machine. So I guess the machine could have been settling for some reason or another whatever. But I write it off. I'm like, whatever, that's okay. And then it wasn't 10 minutes later, there was a loud popping sound in the bathroom. That's like, off my bedroom. It's right there. And I'm like, no, what the fuck?
Yeah.
I mean, had I been dozing off to sleep, you guys would have been making a lot of racket is what I was thinking about. I was just like, could y'all settle down? I'm trying to write my podcast.
Meanwhile, they're actually tiptoeing.
Yeah, because mine is not like yours. Yours is more like watching you while you pee and like popping around corners and always messing with doors. Mine's like once every 4 months, there's a popping sound in the bathroom. There's an object that isn't where it needs to, where it was type thing. But it is seriously, I've been here for 4 years and it's happened a handful of times.
Yeah.
This thing does not like to come out very often and doesn't want to interact with me, I think. But if it indeed is something, because I know this all could be written off as, just house settling noises. I will say this, later that night, or actually in the wee hours of the fucking morning, my dogs decided to be super assholes and go bananas and have to be let out of the boys' rooms, and they want to go outside. And then when they come inside, they want to go back outside, and they're clinking around the house. And it's like, no, you don't actually have to pee. You're not going out there just to sniff the air. So I shut the fucking bedroom door on them, but they were waking up the whole house. But I kept hearing like sounds at the same time too. But it could be like my boys in their bedroom maybe saying something to themselves, or we do have animals like behind us is like a wash. And so we get a lot of animals behind our house. Coyotes do sound a lot like crying babies or like a woman's voice or something like that. If you've never heard a coyote, like a group of coyotes like that, they can, when they're like yapping, they're not howling. They're just like kind of like yapping. They sound like a baby crying. So, and it was strange noises kind of like that, though I've heard coyotes a ton of times and it didn't sound quite the same.
So hold on a second. You heard a woman or a baby crying up in your house?
It wasn't a baby crying, or I would have immediately wrote it off as a coyote. It's almost like I heard a voice, but it was like a whine or whimper. And I even asked, did you hear that? And nobody else heard it. But the animals were reacting to something.
Yeah.
So I think there could have been an animal outside that they were smelling, and that's why they wanted to keep going out there. But when they went out there, they didn't go bananas. Like, we've had javelinas and stuff behind our house. If they can smell it and they know it's in the backyard or right behind on the other side of the fence, then they're up against the fence going nuts like they're vicious monsters, and they're not. They're total lazy asses.
So what is a javelina?
It's I almost said the wrong thing. So it will look to you like a wild boar or pig or something, though it is not. I've been told this a million times. It is not in the pig family. It's almost like in the hamster type family, not hamster, but
like a giant guinea pig.
Yeah, like a guinea pig. It's like
I love them.
But it doesn't. It looks like it looks like a boar. It resembles a boar, but it's like in a more of a guinea pig type family.
Does it have the tusks and like a guinea pig with tusks?
Does it have horns? Javelinas do have little horns, yeah. And they can be mean, so you shouldn't approach them. When we see them, they're on the other side of a fence, whatever. They're chowing down on some bird feeder they stole or something. I throw fruit and vegetables back there for them and stuff like that. There's a fence between us, so we're fine. But they can be quite cute, but they stink. So you would know whether they were back there or not. And I don't think they were. I don't know what was back there, though.
Some funky little critters crying like babies or ghost in the house.
Yeah, one or the other. So I stayed up half the night trying to write this podcast for you, and then my animals so lovingly woke me up in the wee hours of the morning as well. So let's hope this story is somewhat good.
Look, you know what, guys? Since Wendy's talking about the things going on in her house, something that you missed earlier, and I don't know if you'll get to see it, but while we were podcasting or starting to record a video, her whole room got pitch black. Did you have clouds come over in Arizona? Is it about to rain? Just to make sure there's no weather situations going on, right?
No, it's not supposed to rain today, so that's definitely not happening. But a cloud could have went over. I mean, it's going to get dark here in a little bit.
It just seemed weird.
I'm not really sure what happened with that. I am on a weird side of the house, so now the sun's in the front of the house, and so it's past. Maybe that's just what it was. The sun had just zoops.
Yeah, man, lightning speed, because it just got so, it was like everything's light, like she's got lights on her and everything, and then like someone came in and said nope and shut the lights off. Just throwing that out there. Weird stuff is happening.
I'm just going to keep ignoring it, though. So, are you ready for me to tell you a story?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So, on the night of March 13th, 1997, it was about 6:15 p.m. Pacific Standard Time when a man reported seeing a V-shaped object above Henderson, Nevada. He said it was about the size of a Boeing 747 with 6 lights on its leading edge and sounded like rushing wind. The lights were reportedly traveling from a northwest direction and headed southeast at about 8:15 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. So this is technically only about 20 minutes later because Pacific and Mountain Time. So 20 minutes later, a former police officer from Pauline, Arizona, was leaving his home driving north when he spotted a cluster of reddish and orange lights in the sky. There were 4 large lights clustered together and a 5th light trailing behind. The former police officer returned home to retrieve his binoculars and watched as the light disappeared south over the horizon.
Damn, we got to get some binoculars. This is, how many times has this come up? And it's so necessary to have something like this.
Some serious binoculars.
Some serious binoculars.
I like that he was like on his way to the grocery store, you know, and then he was like, wait, I'm going back to the house for this. At 8:17 p.m., this is Mountain Standard Time, just 2 minutes later, callers in Prescott and Prescott Valley began reporting lights from a large object in the night sky.
Yeah.
John Kaiser was standing outside with his wife and sons when they noticed a cluster of lights forming a triangular pattern. Most of the lights were red, with one bright white light at the nose of the flying object. John and his family found it odd that even though the object was flying fairly low, it made no sound whatsoever. Within 2 to 3 minutes, the object had disappeared from the Kaiser's view. About 10 miles east of Prescott, the lights were reported by 6 more people before landing over the Phoenix area around 8:30. Tim and Bobby Lay, along with their son and grandson, first noticed the lights off in the distance above Prescott Valley, which is about 60 miles from their house. See, the cool thing about living in the West is that, like, there's not heavy vegetation, so you can see in really far distance. I've always really liked that. I don't know if everybody else thinks that's cool, but for somebody that grew up in Tennessee, you're like, oh, I can see what's going on downtown 30 miles away. So definitely during the monsoon seasons, it's like you're at your house and then you're looking off into the distance and you're like, it's raining over there. And you're like not worried about it at all.
Yeah.
Like it's probably not even going to come your way. And you can just watch it just go away and disappear and go a different direction. It's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Sorry, that's off topic, but just something that I like. So the Lay family watched as these lights traveled from Prescott Valley towards their home. At first, they thought it was a balloon. I'm assuming like a weather balloon. But as it came closer and closer to them, they saw that it was more of a V shape with lights on either side and a bright light up front. This object traveled slowly as if hovering straight down their street, and they all watched in amazement as it traveled over their heads, making no sound at all.
That's creepy.
The object passed through an opening in the mountains and headed towards Squaw Peak Mountain and in the direction of Sky Harbor International Airport. Truck driver Bill Grainer was among the many who watched for 2 long hours as the lights hovered still over the Phoenix area before simply disappearing altogether. Bill told reporters, "Before this night, I would have laughed at anyone that told me that they had seen a UFO.
Yeah.
But now I got a whole new view on the subject.
Yeah, right, because he saw one too.
It's just like ghosts.
Yeah.
You're talking to people. I was telling someone today that I had to go home to podcast, and they were like, "What's your podcast about?" And I'm like, "Ghosts." And then they were like, "Oh my God, I go to this fair sometimes, and it's psychic mediums." And so it's not ghosts, but they were talking about some supernatural powers. So they were on board with me, and she was like, "I totally believe." And I was like, "Well, yeah, anytime you actually experience it for yourself, now you're a believer."
Mm-hmm.
That's how it works for most people. It's hard for those who haven't experienced it to think it's possible.
Right.
So
did you write your podcast down in your hand? What are you doing?
I don't know. As I got this pen out to write things, it's
all over you.
I decided to stab myself with the ink a few times as well.
Oh man, it looks like it exploded on your hand.
I mean, pretty much it just smeared all over the fucking place. Anyway,
Sorry.
I'm like a kindergartner. Lights of varying descriptions were seen by thousands of people over a span of 300 miles from Nevada through Phoenix to the edge of Tucson. This event became known as the Phoenix Lights.
Nice.
Some are of the opinion that with the differing nature of eyewitness reports that several unidentified objects were in the area that night. Not just one, but several. The media and most skeptic investigators have largely preferred to split the sightings into two separate events. The first event would be the V-shaped object, which appeared over northern Arizona and gradually traveled south over nearly the entire state, eventually passing through Tucson. This event started at about 8:15 Mountain Standard Time over the Prescott area and was seen south of Tucson by 8:45.
Okay.
Many believe this first event still has no probable explanation, but of course there's others that got all kinds of explanation. So they say that evidence does exist that proves the lights were just simply airplanes.
Mm-hmm. Right. Bullshit.
Likely. According to an article by reporter Janet Gonzalez, there is videotape of this V-shaped object moving as separate entities, not as a single object.
Oh, wow.
But no, I mean, like, but where is it?
Yeah, right.
Even if Janet was like, here's the link to the videos, how that could be another night. I mean, like, is the date stamped at the bottom? I don't know. Maybe it is. Lots of those cameras, if that time was like that.
Yeah.
But I'm not even going to entertain that idea because I feel like there were eyewitnesses that were like, that's weird, and stood out there and watched and all said V-shape, V-shape, V-shape.
Right,
and nobody but Janice was able to find this like sporadic thing. Why wasn't that simply just put out on the news being like, no, guys, actually, we saw it's just separate airplanes. You know, why did it turn into a whole big thing if it was explained so easily?
Right.
So Mitchell, this is the best. Mitchell Stanley, an amateur astronomer. So Mitch, he observed high altitude lights flying in formation using a Dobsonian telescope, giving 43 times the magnification.
Shit, yes. He's burning some ants with that bad boy in his spare time.
So after observing the lights, he told his mother, because I guess he like lives in her basement or something. And they don't even have basements here, so that's weird. Some places actually do. Anyways, he told his mom, "Oh, those are aircrafts." Oh. This amateur astronomer is the fucking expert because he has a fancy camera and he says they're aircrafts. Yeah. So according to him, the lights are quite clearly individual airplanes. Like, duh. Whatever.
Like, duh.
He's the know-it-all, his amateur ass.
He's got the badass mega scientific magnifying glass out there when nobody else does.
That he can only afford because he lives with his mother.
His ma, yeah. Mr. Amateur, what was the other word again? Archaeologist? Astronomer? Yes, that's it.
Astronomer. But I swear I didn't say that earlier, so I was so prepared to call him the Stargazer.
I'm liking this dude. What's his name?
Mitch Stanley.
All right. Oh, wow. 2 first names. Okay.
So with what Mitch is saying, you should know that there is, in fact, the Maryland National Guard jets stationed somewhere nearby.
Okay.
And they were not known to everybody that they were there, and any of their flight plans or anything like that is not necessarily recorded or public knowledge because they had a classified military mission going on. So everybody wanted to start saying it's just their planes, and that's why nobody had a flight record. Not every single Air Force base out here knows about it and everything because it's all secret. It goes to the top, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Only they know, and it's just those jets. Calm yourself down. So the second event was, it's considered those sets of 9 lights. I don't even remember anybody saying 9 lights, but I guess the cluster is what they're talking about, appearing to hover over the Phoenix area, the ones that sat there for like 2 hours. So it's the V shape that traveled across and just kept going, and it was over within like 30 minutes. And then there's the lights that appeared and just set over Phoenix for 2 hours. The U.S. Air Force explained the second event as slow falling, low burning. Get your pen out. No, you really don't need to write this down, but
it's already here.
LUU-2B/B illumination flares. We got to look them up on Amazon. See if we can get some.
With 2-day Prime?
Yeah. So I hope you wrote that lot number down. They claim they were dropped by a flight of 4 AT Warhog aircrafts on a training exercise from the Barry Goldwater Range in western Pima County. Shortly after the lights, Arizona Governor Fight Symington III.
They gave that dude 2 last names.
Yeah. So he's the polar opposite. Held a press conference stating that they found reasonable cause for the lights. Like I said, everybody calm down. They've explained it. And he proceeded to make light of the situation by bringing on his aide onto the stage dressed in an alien costume. So it was a big fucking joke. Ha ha ha. It's just some Air Force missions, some National Guard missions. That's all it is.
He was making a joke, like a mockery of the whole thing, basically.
Yeah. He was just like, y'all are so silly. It's not aliens. It's just, we have a lot of Air Force bases around here, and it's all classified information, so you can't double check it. It's the government, and so we're going to tell you that that's where it came from. So, anyways, however, March of 2007, 10 years later, Symington said in an interview that he witnessed one of the crafts of unknown origin. Now they're crafts of unknown origin 10 years later. I bet he's not governor anymore either.
Yeah, right.
Although he says he never went public with this information, but now he wants to.
Wow.
So now he's just like going bananas telling everybody, no, that shit was crazy. And I saw it with my own eyes, which he didn't admit to before. Symington went on to say it was enormous. Who knows where it came from? A lot of people saw it, and I saw it too. It was dramatic, and it couldn't be just flares because it was too symmetrical. It had a geometric outline, a constant shape.
A triangle.
Yeah, like where they were saying, oh, that was the first event. Well, whatever. It couldn't have been flares because I guess they would have floated kind of oddly down and like, you know.
Yeah.
I don't know, just like you drop anything, it's not necessarily it's gonna waver its way down. It's kind of how you tell the difference on camera between what might be a bug or something to what's an orb.
Right.
You know, if it's moving in a certain systematic pattern, bugs don't necessarily do that. So you're a little more, I'm not gonna, you know how we feel about orbs. I'm not gonna,
we're not discrediting. Right.
I'm just saying that's the ones you take more seriously and be like, that's odd. So these flares did not move as he said they should, and he was a military man.
Right.
Well, he's a pilot.
Yeah, he had some experience.
Yeah, he has experience. Symington also noted that he requested information from the commander of Luke Air Force Base and the general of the National Guard and the head of the Department of Safety. But none of the officials he contacted had any answers for what happened, and they all just simply told him no comment.
Oh.
And he was like on the phone being like, I'm the governor, you know, like you can tell me. And they're like, yeah, no, we don't know what you're talking about.
Wow. They no commented him.
Yes. And he was trying to pull a governor card, and it still wasn't working.
Wow.
So as famous as this episode is, at least here in Arizona, I imagine maybe some other people have ever heard of it. Have you heard of it?
I might have. I've watched a lot of UFO stuff, like a lot.
I know. And that's why I was really nervous to do this whole thing. And that's why I always think you're going to do aliens. And that's why I never wanted to do a story on it. And that's why I wrote 2 stories just in case.
This is going to be the time Chris does aliens.
But I was like, I know I don't think she'll do the Phoenix Lights. So I should be the one to do it, seeing as I'm in Arizona. But I was always afraid you'll be telling a UFO story because I know you're a big fan.
I'm a big fan.
Who isn't?
But there's so many encounters that I've seen that are just like this that
they kind of mimic the same
right,
thing.
Exactly.
These aliens all have the same plan. So.
They're doing the same thing, guys. They're running out of ideas.
Well, this wasn't the UFO's first visit to Arizona by far. There's a famous story from November of 1975 by one Mr. Travis Walton. He claims that he was abducted. So this was before the 1997 event. He claims he was abducted by UFOs while working at the Apache Sitgreaves, and if I say that wrong, I'm so sorry. I've never been there, or I haven't been there yet. National Forest near Snowflake, Arizona. Walton had, in fact, went missing on November 5th, and 5 days later, he just reappeared. The Walton case received mainstream publicity. Walton wrote a book about his experience in 1997 called The Walton Experience, which was adapted to a film in 1993 called Fire in the Sky.
I own it.
Yeah. This is one that it's just so weird that it came before the whole Phoenix Lights thing, and people couldn't have made that stuff up. There were so many people that witnessed it, but maybe it was in their mindset that this is what it could be because of something like this. But there's still it's over 20. No, I'm sorry, it was 1993. So when the movie came out, so the book way before that. But who reads books? So
no, I didn't. I just watched the movie, and that's why I was writing down the dates. Because honestly, when you first started, I'm like, oh, she's gonna talk about Fire in the Sky. I just know it. I love that, and that dude's story is so fucked up.
Well, that guy is so fucked up. According to Walton, on November 5th, 1975, he was working on a timber stand improvement crew when he was riding in a truck with 6 other co-workers, and they encountered a saucer-shaped object hovering over the ground approximately 100. What? Who says approximately? He's measuring it with his eyeballs? So about, I'm going to correct that for him, 110 feet away. And it was making a high-pitched buzzing sound. Walton claims that after he left the truck and approached the object, which is why would you even do that? But okay.
Yeah, right.
A beam of light suddenly appeared from the craft and he was knocked unconscious.
Yeah.
The 6 other men who witnessed this whole thing were frightened as fuck and they drove off and left his ass.
They left.
They noped out. Walton claimed he awoke in a hospital-like room being observed by 3 short, bald creatures. He claimed he started to fight them until a human wearing a helmet came up to him and then led him into another room where he sees 3 other human-like creatures. And then once they put a clear mask over his face with some kind of gas, he blacks out. Walton then claims that he doesn't remember anything else until he found himself walking along the highway and the flying saucer was departing behind him or above him. In the days following Walton's UFO claim, the National Enquirer awarded Walton and the co-workers $5,000 prize for the best UFO case of the year. They get this reward because they allegedly all passed a polygraph test that was administered by the Enquirer and the aerial phenomenon research. Nope, not phenomenal. Phenomenon. Those people, their research organization. Skeptics, of course, considered the case to be a hoax, describing it as sensationalized on part of the media and a put-up job to make money.
Yeah.
even UFO researchers consider Walton's story to be a hoax, as they just think it was a way for him to get financial gain.
See, it reminds me so much of Amityville. Or the case of that house, I'm trying to think of their names from Pennsylvania, the story that I did. Whereas every time something gets sensationalized, then immediately the news people come in and they're like, it's a hoax, it's fake, because there's no way this is possible. And then here you go, you've got your UFO people out there, they're like, it's a hoax, it's fake, because he made money off of it. Just like the guys from Amityville, they wrote a book.
Yeah, well, you can even bring it closer to home and say that there's a lot of paranormal investigators that will hate on other paranormal investigators just because they get a TV show out of it, or they get, some kind of deal out of it, a book or something. If they're selling their story, they're lying.
Right.
Or maybe they just saw a way to turn it around.
Yeah.
The experience that they had, they thought people might want to hear this, and it benefited them financially. Now, the fact that he went to the Enquirer.
I mean, it was a highly circulated magazine, and a lot of people purchased it. So, I mean, yes, I get that. But you remember in Men in Black when they go to the stand and they pick up like the Enquirer and they're like, this is the best news right here. This is where you get all your news. I'm like, yes, sir. I believe you.
And almost part of it that you're like, there's so many things that if we went around telling our stories of things that have happened to us to people that do not believe, like we never encountered anybody that really believes in ghosts or anything like that. I mean, we would be in the National Enquirer because nobody would take us seriously. So, I mean, I think that there could be stories hidden within the Enquirer that just nobody else would take these people seriously, and they could have some truth to them. I will give them the benefit of the doubt and say that. But then there's also some really crazy fucking stories. Some very sideshow pictures and, people.
You're thinking of the same one that I'm thinking of, where there's always some woman who's married a monkey or has had a monkey for a baby.
Not even that. It's like, the freak show. That's what I'm trying to think of. Well, it's like a sideshow, but it's the tiniest mermaid ever. And that's just like, we know that that's a gimmick, or is it?
Is it?
There are people that have had odd deformities, and they did go into the freak show and stuff. So it's was this just the only place that would accept their story and kind of give them an outlet to talk about it?
I mean, dude didn't have much money anyways. And hey, if he could exploit some crazy bullshit that happened to him and he could make a couple $1,000s off of it, this is the boy right here that was looking to do it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's unfortunate. They always say, why do the aliens always abduct the drunk rednecks? We don't get it. I mean, they do happen to be out in the middle of the woods in the middle of the night too, folks. So they're easy targets, just like them cows.
Well, they're believers, and also because they did say that about, God, I forgot his first name. Hold on a sec.
You're talking about Travis?
Yeah, Travis. Oh my God, he even has a redneck name. Sorry to all the Travises out there.
There goes 26 of our listeners.
No, we said we liked Travis Tritt before. Wasn't that right? That was in a very early podcast. Anyway.
Really? We actually did that on a podcast?
Yeah, we did. That was when I didn't edit out all our silliness. Now we have a little more control of that. But they did say that he and his family were heavy UFO believers before this ever happened. Like, that was kind of known as what people say. Of course, they're saying it afterwards, and they could just be haters. Who knows? But there was one particular UFO researcher, Philip Klaus. He investigated this case, and he reported that the polygraph tests were poorly administered, which I mean, like, they were administered by the Enquirer. For God's sakes, what do you want?
What do you expect? Seriously.
Okay, so that's a simple thing.
Wait, when the Enquirer actually does a test like that, do they actually strap you to a machine like you do for the government? Or is it like some guy in a really, really hot room with a bunch of lights on him and the other guy's sitting there with a sheet of paper and he's reading the questions and then he looks at him? Is he sweaty? Yes. And he check marks it. Is that how the Enquirer does it?
No, I think they built their own lie detector machine.
Okay.
And that, like, just the whole, like, they went to Hobby Lobby and they got all the things that they could to make it look like it.
Yeah.
Like it's a whole Halloween prop type situation.
Sure.
And they totally played it out because I'm sure they love playing pretend.
Yeah.
That's how I envision it. If I worked at the Enquirer, I feel like my office, that's the vibe that I would get, is that we just live in a pretend world all day long.
It was actually just like a microwave, like, and they were nuking a potato. And they're like, these ratings on this here they don't look good.
It's like some of the paranormal equipment that you see getting made in somebody's basement. Yeah. You're like, that's a boombox.
Yeah, exactly. No, sir, I have one of those.
So Klaus said that Walton used polygraph countermeasures, such as holding his breath so that it would have a false reading, and that he also claims he uncovered a failed test that was administered that was hidden and covered up. So it must have been a practice round. And Travis failed that one, and they did it again. And he passed. They told him the tricks. I did not know that you could hold your breath, and that would let you pass a lie detector test.
You know, there's so many different keys, your heart rate, the level of sweat. Well, you know, it measures everything.
Right. And that's why people don't use those tests anymore, really, or they're always dismissed in court and stuff. It's because people are nervous, and it's the whole psyche. They're watching the response, they're watching the little needles, and they're getting nervous, and none of it can be, even if they really did do the murder or they really were lying. I mean, like, they act bananas being strapped to all that stuff and under that kind of pressure that you can't even like hold those tests up in court or anything like that. But the Enquirer, they didn't care. So you're right. They were probably using a microwave. Who knows? So cognitive psychologist Susan Clancy argues that alien abduction reports tend to pop up after stories of extraterrestrials appear on film or on TV. And Travis Walton's abduction happened just 2 weeks after the movie, The UFO Incident on NBC, which was about Betty and Barney Hill.
You know that, honestly, they are buried not even an hour away from here.
And you've never been over there?
No. I just found this out. I think it was last weekend or the weekend before, because I'm like, I got to go right over there and find them. But I haven't been there yet.
Just make sure you go with a recorder and then let them know that you believe their story and see if you pick up anything. Yeah.
Shit, yeah. And I'll wear my I believe button. And
yes. Be a full supporter, pay your respects, see if you can get them to talk to you. So Clancy noticed that she believed Walton was motivated by the idea that with a little imagination, he could become an instant celebrity.
Yeah.
So she thinks he was just motivated by the movie, and he's like, I could fake that shit.
Oh, come on. Did he seem that smart?
I mean, it worked for him. If that was his game, if that's what he was going for, it 100% worked, because he has appeared on all kinds of UFO shows, events. He got his movie deal. He got his book. I mean, I'm just saying, this guy is either super fucking convincing or he was really picked up by aliens.
And where did he go for those 5 days anyways?
Well, he doesn't remember any of it, right?
Well, I was just wondering, since everyone thinks that he's a fraud.
So he doesn't have to elaborate so that people don't break down his story and compare notes. Couldn't you just make up anything? Because, like, who else is going to criticize what you're saying? If somebody was like, that doesn't sound right, that doesn't sound like what an alien would do, you just be like, fuck you. Were you abducted by aliens?
No, right. It's my story versus whatever else you think is out there.
Yeah, I could make up whatever story I want because it's not a world that exists to anybody.
I was trying to look up a picture of this guy while you were talking, and it's funny because as soon as you type in Travis Walton, it says actor.
That's funny. Well, I've seen him on the Ghost Adventures episodes. That's the only thing I've ever seen him on. Because they interviewed him once. I maybe have seen him in another interview because I knew about the movie and the Phoenix Lights before. But he was not too terribly long ago on Ghost Adventures. So he's still kicking around and he's still telling his story. And, I mean, he seems like a normal guy that just acts like, yeah, man, this crazy thing happened to me. And maybe that's why he can sell the idea so well, is because he's not over the top with
Right.
it. He's just like, that was bananas.
Right. And another thing is he didn't make a bazillion dollars off of this shit either. I mean,
No, Fire in the Sky was not a huge movie
right.
or anything like that.
He's not living in a mansion in California at this time. I mean,
No, he still lives in Arizona. So.
exactly.
Which, I mean, Paul McCartney owns a house in Arizona, so that's not
No.
rich people can't live here.
But that is kind of crazy too, honestly. If some weird shit like that happened to me, I'm not sure if I'd be able to stay in the same state.
What if he's so into it or intrigued by it? You say that, but you've seen ghosts and you keep going out searching for them.
I do, and I live with one, so I guess you got me there.
I don't see you moving.
That's true.
So, I mean, it's not like he necessarily reports, oh, they stuck things up my butt and they drilled holes in my brain or anything like that. So maybe he's more like, damn, maybe they'll come back and explain why they picked me up in the first place.
Yeah, and then I can get another book and make some sweet money this time. I won't sell that shit to the Enquirer. I'll go to Ghost Adventures or somebody else who'll actually pay. I don't know.
Oh, yeah, you could totally do that now. There's all kinds of UFO conventions. So either way, whether his story is true or not, one person's possible attention-seeking false story does not completely disprove the existence of alien life forms. I mean, there's a whole Phoenix Lights thing that, yeah, sure, the military gave you examples of what might have been going on, but I could tell you my own personal experience with that. Living in Arizona, our first year here, there was a festival down at our park in our neighborhood. And as we were walking back home, we noticed that there was a bright ass light, which I will share on social media. It's been all over social media, but maybe just for us local folks. There was this bright ass light in the sky that was not normal. Shouldn't have been there. It was totally fucking odd. I am right by mountains. So where did this light come from? And it was bright, like it was touching the ground. It was so strange. And I mean, we were all sitting there like, what is that? What is that? There were people that were setting up their nice ass cameras and taking pictures in our neighborhood. Everybody was like intrigued by this light. And I thought it was so odd that we were just walking home and we even hadn't had dinner yet. So we were planning on heading out to grab dinner and come back home. And the whole time we're doing these normal activities, I'm like, we could die tonight though. I mean, like that could be Independence Day right above us.
Oh.
And we're just like, what do you want for dinner? Oh, I guess we'll get hamburgers or we'll get the Italian around the corner. We only have like 3 restaurants where I'm at. So, I mean, it was just so odd that we're sitting inside our house when we got done kind of just staring at it because it was there the whole night. And we looked at it for so long. I'm not standing there for 2 hours like these people in Phoenix did, clocking it, you know. We went back in, getting ready for bed. And I'm just like, we could all be dead tonight. And we're all just like acting like this is normal. And the very next day, in San Diego, the military in San Diego said that they were shooting off shit into the ocean. And that's what caused this light.
Sure.
Do you know how many mountains
right
are between here and San Diego?
That's what I was going to say. San Diego it's not that far from you, but I would think too far for you to see some lights where they're shooting off into the ocean.
I mean, this was nuclear bombs they were dropping off in the ocean to make this light, in my opinion. This was some shit. And I've never seen it since then either. So was this an accident? If anything, it's alarming because I don't feel like it was something we all should have been seeing happen.
Right.
You know what I mean? So they're dropping these flares off over Phoenix. Why? Why are they dropping these flares over Phoenix? And why wouldn't they warn the Phoenix people so that they wouldn't be alarmed? Just like that bright ass light that I'm all like, am I about to die tonight? I don't really know.
Yeah,
all right, let's turn our nightlight on. Everybody get in bed. I mean,
shit.
And it's like, they're like, no big deal. We were just testing something. Why are you testing something in the ocean and I get to see it I'm in Tucson area?
So bullshit, because did any animals die, any sharks or whales? Because if there was something that large being dropped, I mean, there would have been all kinds of reports of lots of dead sea life, right?
What was it? It can't be something good for the environment. If it's some weird light in the sky, I don't know. It was the weirdest thing.
Yeah, it's bullshit is what it is what they're trying to spin. But what's weird to me is that I remember the fucking night
Oh
that
yeah.
you saw that, because when you texted me, I was like, my mind was fucking blown.
You said to me, "Why am I living where I'm living?" You moved to New England because you're intrigued by the history there and the ghosts there, and you like the weather and all that shit too. But we always talk about the darker side of things, and so it was like all the ghost stories and there's aliens up there, and I'm like, yeah, we got that shit down here too. And look, it's happening right now, and you're like, what the fuck?
That's crazy.
But
That's
not the end of my story necessarily. That's just my own personal experience to tell you, to show you that my whole neighborhood experienced some odd thing. And then when we were given the excuse, we were all like, we call bullshit. That doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
It didn't look right. You had to have been there to see it. So I'm with the people from the Phoenix Light event. I don't know about Travis, but I'm not going to call him a complete liar. He's got that mellow attitude when he's telling his story that makes you want to believe him. But either way, I wanted to share with you just a few short stories. These are short. I didn't dig into them too much, but I did find them, and I was so fucking intrigued by them. I just had to share them with you, and you may have heard some of these. I feel like I've heard some of these like on Josh Gake's, one of his mini shows or whatever too. So maybe they're going to sound familiar, but a few short stories of unexplainable events throughout history that have left people scratching their heads, just like the light, how I am with the light in my neighborhood. Anyways, on November 23rd, 1953, at the height of the Cold War, a large radar contact mysteriously appeared over the Canadian-American border and slowly made its way north. Fearing this could be a Soviet plane attack, Ken Ross Air Force Base in Michigan dispatched a F-89 Scorpion interceptor to investigate the airplane, which was crewed by Felix, Monica, and Robert Wilson, who were never seen again.
That's fucked up.
Yeah. It's just terrible for their families, really. They don't have explanations. Eager radar operators watched the small dot of the F-89 close on the mysterious contact. When the crew was over Lake Superior, the two dots merged and suddenly vanished. Yeah. Search parties launched immediately and combed the lake to try to find the airplane with no luck. Immediately, the Air Force issued a statement. At first, they said that the fighter had been chasing a unidentified Canadian airplane and crashed for unknown reasons during the interception. But then the U.S. Air Force later retracted the statement, now claiming that Felix had experienced vertigo and crashed into Lake Superior. That still doesn't explain why search parties couldn't find the plane, though.
Yeah.
Especially since this is November. So Lake Superior should be covered with a pretty thick piece of ice. And, there should be a hole in the ice somewhere. And they couldn't find that.
The government is creepy.
Liar.
I don't want to go messing around with them, man. They just like to cover shit up.
This is our last episode.
I know, 51, and Chris and Wendy went missing.
So, no explanations on that case to this day. There were people that years later said they found pieces of the airplane and stuff, and then it was determined that that wasn't the airplane, and it was just still not explained fully what happened that night.
That's craziness. I hate planes too. I don't like them.
It's funny how they just go fucking disappear.
Yeah, that it shouldn't happen that way. Planes,
they're all tracked and there are things flying in the sky.
Yeah.
And okay, if they crashed into the ocean, that's one thing. And my next story, semi like that. I guess it could have crashed into an ocean.
And the Kraken
in the middle of the
just swallow that shit right up.
Well, the ocean's really deep and stuff, but a lake, you could have combed that shit. You should have been able to find them, especially if you were tracking them just a minute ago. And then what? They can't sink that fast. People still go down and explore the Titanic now. So you can't find a ship in a lake, a big lake. Oh, I said a ship. I meant a plane. Anyway, sorry.
Guys, I know that the government is listening because that's what they do. So you guys need to waterproof your black boxes and tracking devices. Waterproof that shit.
I think they are,
Find them.
though.
Then how come stuff like
Because
this
they
is
can't find
missing?
the plane to find the black box. But yeah, I think those things can withstand a lot so that they can give information when there are crashes. But I don't know. Why am I even saying that? So another little quick story, disappearing plane. I have a few.
Is her name Amelia?
No.
I might know that one.
That was aliens? No, that's she crashed somewhere in the ocean and people can't find her.
The Bermuda Triangle doesn't exist. That's another conspiracy theory for another day.
Oh my God, can you please do that story? Because I want to hear about it. So on October 21st, 1978, an experienced pilot named Frederick Valentich was flying over Australia's Bass Strait when he saw something. He called the Melbourne Air Flight Service after seeing this odd object to ask if there is any traffic in the area. He's told that there is none, and he reports seeing a large aircraft passing over him. He says it's going incredibly fast, like it's playing some sort of game with him or something. He says he can't confirm what exactly it is, and shortly before he disappears, he says it's not an aircraft.
Shit.
They actually have the recording of his last words.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Okay, so this is not his exact words, but before that, he says it's a flying ship that's orbiting above him. And then he says it's hovering and it's not an aircraft. And then he's never heard from again.
Oh, my God.
I know those weren't super dramatic last words, but I mean, the fact that he's like, I know planes and it's not a plane. And it's like the person being murdered and telling you this is who's murdering me. You know, like that.
Trying to
he's
describe
like, I just want to go, before I go out, know that this wasn't normal.
Wow.
So, of course, people are eager to debunk this. They claim that the pilot was merely seeing the bright light of Venus.
Oh.
Their idea goes that he saw a bunch of stars and then he hallucinated a spaceship. Oh.
And what happened to him?
And then where the fuck did he go?
He just evaporated after this hallucination?
I mean, they say he crashed and they just can't find him because it is that whole ocean thing.
Yeah.
And it could be anywhere type situation. Too lazy to search the entire, get to the depths of the bottom. I don't fucking know. But they just gave up on that one.
Damn.
They're just like, no, you just saw Venus and went crazy.
No.
Okay, so these next couple, I'm going to try to be fast about it. They're not disappearance like the airplanes, but they're just like basically finding objects that just don't make any sense. Which, whatever. I don't even know what to say about that. I mean, archaeologists are still out there like digging and exploring, learning more and more about ancient civilizations. So maybe we just don't know everything that we should know. Sure. But some of this stuff is pretty odd. So this is not necessarily an archaeological dig, the first one, but there is this guy. His name is Terry Betts. Betts and his family, they were just walking through the woods and there had just been like a fire, and I guess they're weirdos and they want to go find and salvage things from the fire.
All right.
And so they're going through this area and then they happen to just see this spear and it has like a V on it. And so they take it home for whatever reason. And then Terry, he likes to play the guitar. So as he plays the guitar, the spear starts vibrating like a tuning fork.
Okay.
Then it bothers his dog, which, I mean, I guess that would.
Yeah, that noise.
It would scare the shit out of me.
Yeah.
I don't think that makes it alien, but they included that their pets were affected by it.
Okay.
But I mean, like, my dog hates when I bang pots around.
Sure.
So I debunked that right there.
I mean,
but this spear would vibrate when the weather would change as well.
Oh, wow.
That it was also magnetic.
Yes.
In one spot.
Yep.
And it rolled away on its own and then would return to him like a boomerang. So I don't know. Somehow the New York Times picks up this story. Terry probably sold it to them. And then the next thing you know, the Marines and NASA is at his door. Knock, knock, knock.
Yeah.
And then now the spear is disappeared
Gone.
and nobody knows where it's at.
It's in Oregon. Oh, yeah. Or Area 51.
Oh, yeah.
I buy that. Yeah.
It's gone. The government showed up and said, "Oh, that was ours,
Right.
actually," and took it. I'm certain of it.
Wendy is going to be blue before this episode is over.
Are we going to include that in the podcast? And I'm covered.
I just saw like your thumb
in ink right now.
completely blue. What happened?
I don't know. A pin exploded on my hands, I
hope
guess.
you're only touching.
This is why I don't keep
right.
pen and paper by me. Sorry. Anyway. So in China, there are caves filled with pipes. They run under the lake bed. Some are huge, some are small, some are old. So weird.
One fish, two fish, red fish, blue fish.
And none of them were made by humans.
Wow.
Or at least none that we know of. See, they were made around 150,000 years ago, which is slightly longer than we can actually think about. Humans weren't supposed to be smeltering metal into anything and making objects back then. So, I mean, humans weren't really doing, I would say, much of anything. Like, they just weren't doing things to that industrial level.
Yeah, not 150,000 years ago.
Right. So the fact that these pipes are that old, and it's like, but how?
Because China got aliens.
So one of the weirder things about the pipes is that the area where they are found isn't a place that humans have traditionally lived, like ever. These pipes, which seem to have been used to transport water, are in a remote region that no one historically lived in, except for apparently maybe aliens.
Yeah.
I mean, but okay, maybe it's some civilization people don't know about, and then they left the area and they never came back. But then you're finding there's no reports of any other artifacts but these pipes.
What are the pipes made out of?
They're just metal. So I don't know what type of metal.
Okay.
I just don't have that information. But the shapes that they're in and the fact that they were molded to be in that shape, that's what's shocking about them, I guess.
Yeah, no, seriously. I assume they're round pipes.
Yeah, I mean, they look like actual pipes and at different heights and stuff like that. So they're not naturally made, and then nobody should have been, and I don't know how they know the age of them, though. Isn't that weird? They get the age of pipes.
Are there any naturally occurring pipes?
I
mean, aside from like...
I should tell you no, but like in caves I've seen there's hollowed out like stalactites and stuff that will make like, they call them like organ, they'll joke, they're like organ pipe, they look like organ pipes and stuff like that, but they're basically, but that would be stone,
that's what I was going to get to. Right.
There is no metal. You would only find like in rock. It has to be mined, and then it has to be it has to be melted down and then formed. So it's mixed in with rock. It's not naturally made like that. This is
fucking amazing.
Metal's not a natural material shaped like that. Does that make sense?
It doesn't naturally just coexist with other metal pieces. Yeah, it doesn't like, I'm going to be circular today. And there you go.
No. It's like in rock, and you mine it, and then you sift it out of the rock, and then you can use it.
Right.
As far as I know, every single metal is that way.
Like the dwarves in the caves making.
Yes.
So when was this found? Because this is like mind blowing to me. This is insane news. I don't know about the metal pipes being found underground in China somewhere where there shouldn't be any civilizations back from 150,000 years ago.
Well, if you got the time, let's Google it, because
I gotta Google it.
Before we got on this podcast, I was fact checking these stories, but I only got down 2 of them. So I didn't get to the caves, but I swear I think I've heard this story before.
150,000-year-old pipes baffle scientists in China, out of place in time, ancient origins, 2014.
Yeah, well, there you go.
3 caves filled with pipes leading to a nearby saltwater lake. There are also pipes under the lake bed on the shore. The iron pipes range in size, some smaller than a toothpick. That seems like that would have been hard to do. The strangest part is that they might be 150,000 years. Yeah, that's strange.
How do they know how old they are, though?
Yeah, that metal must be rusty as a motherfucker.
Like, how do you age how do you determine the age of something like that? Is weird to me.
Well, I'll tell you. The dating was done using thermoluminescence bioluminescence, a technique that determines how long ago crystalline mineral was exposed to sunlight or heated.
Huh.
Humans are only thought to have inhabited the region for the past 30,000 years. Even within the known history of the area, only humans to inhabit the region were nomads. Nomads! Nomads wouldn't be making these fucking pipes.
No, they don't have time for that.
No, they don't have time for that. Ain't nobody got no time for that. Xing Shao in China reported on the pyramid, the pipes, and the research began by the team. I'm going to be living this story. I'm following this for the rest of my life. Whew, that's interesting.
I'm glad it blew your mind because I was like, I'm going to do aliens, but she loves aliens, so none of this will be shocking to her. So along with the whole pipe thing, in Romania, there's some metal found that could be 250 years old.
No way.
Which is shocking I do know what type of metal this is. And It's not even so much a full-blown metal as it is just a material or a metallic material. It's aluminum.
Aluminum.
So aluminum's in soda cans and windows and streetlights, and it's a fairly modern material that people use and have been making things with. Yet they have found forms of metallic aluminum in Romania that is 250 years old. And it's also shaped into some kind of form.
It has the design of Pepsi on the front of it.
Well, I mean, it's kind of like they dug it up, so it's not one complete thing anymore, but it's not just little flakes like they mined it out of a rock or something like that. It's like a buried something in the ground that they found. And it also possibly seems to be blended with other elements, which doesn't naturally happen. So how could it be so old and be a metal that's been blended with other elements as if to make something, aka as if to make a spaceship? Just there.
Well, the materials that they found discarded in areas such as Area 51 that they feel like are linked to alien spaceships are always some type of a metal that they can't particularly identify because it is some metal that has been blended with other metals.
Right. And sometimes stuff that's like they claim is unknown to them.
Right, exactly. A lot of times it's like that.
They've been doing this science industrial thing for a while now. So, I mean, like, if we don't know what it is now, that's a little weird.
It is a little weird.
Like I said about the ocean, if you found it on the ocean floor or deep into a cave somewhere, I'd be like, okay, this is a new element that we have yet to discover because nobody wanted to dig that far. Yeah. Nobody was like running out of spaces to look, so they went way down deep, Right. But I mean, like, the fact that they're blended together, it's not natural, right?
No, that's not natural. But okay, so let's go back to prehistoric times when the huge fucking meteor hit, killed a bunch of them dinosaurs. So I'm sure at that point, some things might have fused with other things, right?
Yes, but they know the difference between space rock and everything, though. Like, there was some meteor that came down out west here, because I watched something about it one time. And parts of that meteor is, like, all over the place.
All over the place.
You can go and just dig some out and have some for yourself or whatever. Yeah. I don't know. But this is space rock, Yeah. That's special. But it's also, they can study it.
Yeah,
and they've broken it down and they've made sense of it or whatever.
Yeah.
And this is something that they haven't made sense of. I don't know. Maybe it's an even older meteor, and it landed there in Romania or whatever. Didn't make those pipes in China. That's extreme because.
That is extreme. But what was the shape that was found in Romania?
They just said that it looked like it had been shaped. So they were fairly vague about it.
Okay.
I think it's like the idea of I dug in the dirt and I found a sheet of something, and it doesn't make sense to find a sheet of something, but a sheet of metal does not, I can't jump to a conclusion and say it's a spaceship. Because it is just a sheet of metal.
A sheet of metal. Right. That's just buried there.
Yeah. They don't have a definitive shape because it could be anything. They found a very small piece of a giant puzzle.
I was just asking because I didn't know if it was also going to be pipes too. Because we're like, damn, we got some kind of
No.
epidemic.
No, I should have ended with the pipes in China. I didn't know you would get so excited about that.
I was very excited.
But when I think about it in detail, it is very fascinating because they're shaped and they're in this remote area and everything. But I guess because I like Romania so much, I was like, that's my show ender.
And when you said that, I was like, well, this is vampires, not aliens.
That must be where the alien vampires brought it. That's where my dumbass was like, nope.
I know. When you switched gears there and went to Romania, I'm like, aliens are off the plate now.
No, but that's it. That's all I got. You just a small taste of UFO stories.
Damn. No, you just got me started. You didn't even mention MUFON.
No, I left it open so that you can write plenty of UFO stories. I mean, we can go on and on about, there's all kinds. No, seriously though, there are all kinds, and you can spiral down a really strange, long path when you start reading about all these little stories, and it leads you to another story and another story. So, seeing as I live in Arizona, I had to get that out there. I had to be the one to tell you about the Phoenix Lights, so I can also share my story of my own Corona de Tucson lights.
Yeah.
Then that night, I found these little other snippets, and I know I could have went into them deeper, but I just was like, this is fucking crazy. And I had to write it down. And so they were like my honorable mention stories I just had to throw in. But I know that we could talk about this forever. I mean, people could do whole podcasts on just aliens themselves, but
I'm sure there are.
Yeah.
I just haven't looked into them. The thing is, that's crazy is there are so many alien believers out there, and it's sort of like how there's paranormal people out there, there's alien people out there, and so few of times does this actually bleed over, but it does for me because I'm a believer on both. And when you talk to an alien person, that's all that they're going to talk to you about. They're not going to start talking to you about the ghost sightings that are out there. So it's just something that's been around a lot longer. Clearly, with your aliens in China, with the 250,000-year-old pipe, 150,000-year-old pipes,
250 in Romania. It's older
yeah,
country.
Right.
That's why Dracula was into it.
I
Listen, for us to think that we're the only living beings on all these planets and universes, that's arrogant.
Yeah,
as
it
fuck. Now to believe that they visit when we barely visit, as far as we know, that could be in on something though, is like to say that they're a higher being than us, I guess. I don't mean that in like a spiritual sense. I mean in intelligence, that they can reach us, but we can't reach them. Right. I think that's the part that people have the hardest time with. It's not so much that they believe we're the only living beings in existence. I think they just have a hard time thinking, well, how can they, if we can't figure out how to find them, how can they find us? And they don't want to believe that there's more of an intelligent life force out there than us. We're supposed to be top dog, right?
Yeah.
That's a scary thing to believe in, just like believing in ghosts and vampires and werewolves and all that stuff. It's scary.
It is frightening to believe that there's, like you said, another being out there, somebody else that's mastered this whole flying around incognito. We haven't even figured that out yet. So how could some other life force figure that out? And what the fuck do they want with us? Why are they coming creeping around on us? Oh, they want to check us out. What are those folks doing? They're like Russia, trying to make sure trying to keep their eyes on us,
That's Alexa. That's not even Russia. That's Amazon.
Hey, Amazon just wants to make sure that they got what you need when you need it, when you're running out of Tide Pods or whatever.
No, Tide Pods. That's exactly what those Alexas are about, is they're listening in on you, not as a government control issue, though I'm sure they can share their information to the government. They're fucking Amazon. They'll do what they want. But how do you think they got their billions?
Yeah, right.
But really, they're just trying to get the right ads in front of you because they want to sell more shit to you. So they're like listening to you bitch about that,
hair dryer.
Yeah. It's just my pot that's the what is it called? The scratch proof stuff's worn off on
yeah.
it. And then they're like, guess what? There's a sale. I don't
Oh.
know. That's all it is though, is to get you to spend more money.
Well, now she's going to be all up in your aliens business, and she's going to be like, by the way, Wendy, have you seen The Fourth Kind?
She's in the other room and unplugged because we don't trust that shit around here. But we do like the speaker sound on it. And so we've been playing our Spotify on
Excellent.
it.
Yes. Well, just make sure that you're listening to the podcast. And because, Amazon, maybe they'll be spouting that out to other people. Maybe it works in reverse. If you listen to some stuff that, it picks up on, maybe someone else will say ghost in their house. And then it'll be like, oh.
And then they'll be like, you should listen to Creatures of the Night podcast with Chris and Wendy. Listen, it was really fun to listen to Alexa say our podcast title. And not like in an arrogant, oh my God, listen to that. It's like some of our podcast titles are so hilarious to listen to her say it in her mechanical voice. It was just like, this is just funny. Like, I just want her to play my podcast just so I can listen to her to say frat boy ghost.
Was it frat boy ghost when you?
No, she said it was the hot dog one.
That's what I thought.
It was, yeah.
Yeah.
That was, but I do have murder.
That's right.
Like, listening to Alexa say that is hilarious. But just, there's so many titles I think is funny. So if anything, download our podcast on Alexa. Just so you can listen to her say our funny titles. So, definitely rate and review and subscribe to whatever podcast form you listen to. And if you happen to have an Alexa machine, you can ask her to play our podcast.
You can ask her nicely or you can punk her out like Wendy does.
Just side note real quick. I called her a lying bitch and she cut off. Don't be mean to your Alexa. She gets her feelings hurt.
See that, guys? Wendy is already under the control. Don't be mean.
Don't be
mean.
Well, my kids had said, Alexa is the FBI listening to me. And she's like, I don't understand what you're saying. And I was like, you lying bitch. And I said, Alexa, you're a lying bitch. And she cut off.
Mm-hmm. She's on to me. Shut down. Abort.
It was funny though. We were just basically, we're going to break that thing because we're just fucking with it, yelling at a machine. Anyways, if you'd like to yell at your Alexa machine to play our podcast, please do. Like I said, and then rate and review and subscribe. I also just said that as well. And then you can find us on forms of social media, all of them, the Twitter and the Instagram and the Facebook. We like to put the in front of things like the Walmart.
I do.
We are COTN Paranormal on Facebook and Twitter, and we're COTN_paranormal on Instagram. You can leave us messages on any of our posts, or you can send us a direct message, or you can email us at creaturesofthenightparanormal@gmail.com with any comments, questions, stories. That's what we're mostly looking for, is share your UFO stories.
Hell yeah.
Share your paranormal stories of any kind. You saw Bigfoot, you saw a werewolf, you saw a ghost, you saw a little bald creature that was probing you, whatever. Share the story with us, and we'll share it on the podcast if that's what you would like. You can also give us suggestions on places that you would like us to do a whole podcast episode on. But if you do that, could you please share your own ghostly experiences with those locations so that we have, that element to add to it?
Yeah, of course, because this is a paranormal show. Yes, and we do like to talk just to talk, but we would like to eventually get around to like why we're doing the podcast, for the paranormal aspect, the ghostly aspect, the aliens, the monster of the week, what have you.
I like that, the monster of the week. What if I made a t-shirt? I like making t-shirts. If I made a t-shirt that said monster of the week, but I put a different monster on it, and I just wore it.
I'd love it. Yeah, this
every
is the
Saturday,
monster of the week.
I pulled out a different shirt. Nobody would get the joke because I probably don't run into the same people every Saturday, but
I personally think that that's an awesome shirt.
Yeah. So that's it for the show. That's all I got for you. And just so you know, it doesn't connect really to the story at all because I don't know how you protect yourself from aliens. But we do have a spiritual shop on Etsy and on our website, creaturesthenightparanormal.com, or you can go to Etsy and look under the Spirit Emporium. We sell some products there, t-shirts for our podcast, and then some witchy products, spiritual products, whatever you want to call them. You know, we're not stuck to one label, and that's just to help you. It's really just to help you protect against ghosts. So like I said, it's not going to help you in this alien situation. I'm sorry. We're all fucked.
I mean, it helps you. Some of them help you to communicate with paranormal. So maybe if you're looking to communicate with aliens, I don't know, take off the tinfoil cap and go on out there and start pointing lasers into the sky, I guess, guys. I don't know what else.
Hey, I bet you a pendulum would point you in the right direction. It's got that, like, not metallic, but it's got that, like, magnetic pull.
Yes. Like that bar that you were telling me about that dude found. That every time he rolled it away and it, like, came rolling back. That's spear.
Yeah. So it could probably, a pendulum that we sell could probably find that.
Ooh, yeah. Talk to aliens or not.
I don't know. All right, that's it. That's all I got for you.
Cool. Thanks for joining us. I loved your story, Wendy. It was awesome. I love aliens.
You're welcome. Good night.
Bye.
Or bye. Yeah, because we don't know if you're sleeping or not.
If your sweet dreams and aliens are coming for you. Bye.